Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the third audio cast in the Q News Patriot series. I am the Q News Patriot. My name is SGAnon. For those of you who are joining us for the first time in this journey, a warm welcome. Thank you for taking the step out to learn the truth. If you hear some background noise, it's because I'm coming to you from an area that's a little different than my typical little studio setup that I have on the back end of my home. I am currently traveling out and about, but I have some interesting things to relay, some interesting things that I do want to address right out of the gate. I feel like each of you will appreciate the clarity and the clarification. For those returning listeners, thank you very much. I appreciate your trust and your confidence. It does not go unnoticed. Many of you will have noticed by now that I do not respond to commentary or emails. The reason why is because I'm not in this for fame or glory or notoriety. The alias is because we're in a war. And when you're in a war, you're maybe not always totally reassured about certain things. And so I take the steps that I need to take to preserve the safety of my family, the safety of myself. I remember that although the war is won, we are still playing out those cleanup moves. For those of you who have ever played chess, you'll know that the end game, past the point of no return, where the game has been decided, those end stages do take quite a while. It is not how to say it. It's the most important part of the game, but it's arguably the most uneventful from a drama sense. And right at the very end of the game, when the final moves are being played out, the drama increases exponentially to the most dramatic point in the entire game, until one person is declared the winner through checkmate or default, and the other person is declared the loser. We have been in the end game now since November of 2020, but this is a long chess game. We discussed in the last couple of videos just how many angles, just how intense and extensive ran into some technical difficulties. Apologies for that. Suffice to say, coming back to where we're at in today's time frame, this is the end game, and we've been playing a long end game now for the better part of 2 years. This end game is going to run all the way up until that 2-year mark, but the next few months will be those dramatic final moves in the game. Checkmate is within sight. Several powerful checkmate style moves, for lack of a better term, have been playing out. And each of you has done a phenomenal job in holding the line, seeking the truth, finding the truth, listening to your heart, praying, listening to your soul and God's guidance. This is the most intense information war that has ever been fought, simply because it is the largest in scope that's ever happened in the world. A couple of things that we should go ahead and get out of the way right out of the gate. Many of you have attributed this audio cast to a truther who is a phenomenal individual. You will not hear me reference many truthers on this audio cast by name, simply because many of them are deep state infiltrates and don't really bear mentioning because their information is not solid. That is not to discount their part in the Great Awakening. Our Creator uses those things meant for good or meant for evil and bad to turn around and be used for good. And ironically enough, that subsect of the alternative media / truther community that are beholden maybe to some deep state interests on the more powerful issues, such as the fact that the Earth is a giant plane, not a globe, and we have a firmament above us, and there is no space, and there are no asteroids or things like that. And ironically, those individuals manage to reach a sect of the population that is just not ready to accept the full hardened truth, and those individuals almost act as tillers against the ground before the real truthers come along and plant the seeds. I don't waste much of my time worrying about individuals' sources or information or not, because I have my own. That being said, I do want to give a very big shout out to one of the truthers in the community that is exactly who he says he is, and is also not who he says he is, and both of which are okay and necessary. And that individual is the persona that you know as Phil Godleski. At least according to the individual that I follow and that I was graciously connected to over the last 2.5, 3 years. That individual, Mr. Godleski, is both exactly who he says he is, and he is exactly who he says he isn't. Do with that what you will. The persona that you know as Mr. Godleski is a phenomenal person. We'll just say that. Sadly, that persona and that human being is not the human being behind this podcast. But I would like to give a shout out to that human being for his past, his work, and for a legacy that he will create for himself, following very specific instructions in this movement. That being said, use your discernment. This is an information war, but it is also a war for the minds and hearts and souls of humanity. And so that means that we have to be on we have to have our heads on a swivel. We have to have our eyes wide open. And we have to have our emotions out of the way. With intense emotion can come cloudiness and fogginess. It is not to say that your passion is ill-placed. I think all of us are zealous to the point of foaming at the mouth to get the children rescued and saved. It is unnatural for a human being created in the image and likeness of a source creator to accept or tolerate crimes against their young and crimes against the young of others. The children are the most vulnerable and innocent demographic we have in the world, and they are also the future of humanity. They're also the apples of God's eye. And so if you are a Luciferian, Satanistic cabal, one of the very best things that you can do is throw sacrilege to the wind and harm that demographic. And so that is what many of us have been waking up to and realizing, while many of us have known about these crimes for a very long time. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, that I very much appreciate each of you. I appreciate your trust and your time. I am not the persona known as Phil Godleski. I am the persona known as SGAnon. My place in this movement is not the status of an operator, like Mr. Godleski. I take my instructions from an individual who I believe is connected to operators behind the scenes. But my part in this movement is merely to inform you to the best that I can. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about the first arrest and what Q tells us about the first arrest. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive. I'm going to show you all how the Anons put things together so that we have a clearer picture of what's currently going on in the world. Things are heating up very fast. August has been an extremely hot month. We've seen a staggering number of resignations across government, business, finance, and commerce over the last 28 days, 27 days. We will continue to see these accelerate. The chess moves that will be played by our enemies over the next 45 days or so will be nothing more than Hail Marys at the end of the game against the clock. The game is over. But we do have to finish all of the moves to ensure that no stones remain unturned or uncovered. Regarding the first arrest, many of you are unsettled that the first arrest seems to be pointing to President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. It is worth pointing out that when we consider the complexity of a global military operation, we must consider the best ways to break the trance of those who are still very asleep and those who are partially asleep without inciting rebellion or a real insurrection, Civil War type scenario. It is our job to care for the Republic as we awaken the Republic to certain realities that were stolen from the Republic between the years of 1864 and 1871. One of the best ways to do that is to install an illegitimate government and then have that illegitimate government operate as a Manchurian illegitimate government would. One of the very best pieces of information that I was introduced to regarding the whole FBI debacle was a simple thought process that someone had placed online on social media. And that thought process simply ran along the lines of an individual who received 81 million votes would not have need to raid a political opponent, but an individual who unlawfully cheated his way into office and needs to cover up his crimes basically has no choice but to raid a political opponent. It makes a lot of sense when you think about that. I'm rolling with that thought process. It also makes a lot of sense that at the moment in time where an unlawful government is faced with its existence being threatened, that unlawful government must take the steps necessary to essentially preserve its existence. One of those steps is to take out the opposition. When you have attempted to malign the opposition into oblivion, scare the opposition into oblivion, bankrupt the opposition into oblivion, cancel culture the opposition into oblivion, and none of it has worked and has in fact worked against you, you will eventually arrive at the point where your only moves left for survival are to take physical, publicly available, publicly optically acceptable action. Considering the type of media campaign and propaganda campaign that has been waged, I think it only serves as a logical conclusion that the physical takedown of Donald Trump, at least publicly in the public eye, must be the next step. We've already seen the mainstream media preparing this narrative. New York Times ran an article either yesterday or a day or two ago titled "Donald Trump is not above the law, an opinion piece." And it calls for the prosecution, the arrest, indictment, and prosecution of former President Trump for violations of the Presidential Records Act and the Espionage Act. Remember that we are setting a game board and a template for how we will go after these same individuals once President Trump has been lawfully reinstated. Having this template carry through all of the way is necessary so that we have lawful precedent which we can rely upon when we defend the next moves to the public, who will begin to wake up very quickly and likely very unpleasantly as things begin to play out post the first arrest. Q says that the first arrest will verify actions and confirm future direction. Verify action. What does that mean? Does it verify the actions of the illegitimate government? Is it a point of no return? Confirm future direction. Is that the equivalent of saying, that it confirms for our side the direction we need to take, or it confirms to our side the direction that the other side will continue to take? These are questions that should be asked as you evaluate these topics. Q goes on to say, they will fight, but you are ready. Marker 9. Marker 9 is up for debate. There's a very good school of thought that discusses Marker 9 as possibly the Ninth Amendment. Since January of 2021, we've seen a staggered and very powerful assault on the first 10 amendments to the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights would be the number one document that stands in the way of not only the American deep state, but who they work for, the global mafia syndicate and the central bankers. The Bill of Rights is offensive and disgusting for them. And with that Bill of Rights and the way our court systems are set up in the United States, they can't do anything to us so long as the judges are not corrupt. That's what part of this whole operation has been about, showcasing the corruption at all levels, even the captured courts, captured governments, government agencies at all levels. When Q says they will fight, but you are ready, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the lefties? They're not going to fight. Donald Trump is arrested. They're not going to fight. They're going to throw a party. They're very happy at that news, as is the illegitimate government. Who would fight? I'll tell you who will fight. The conservative Republican Americans who believe the election was stolen, but who do not believe in Q. They will fight. Our job, your job as digital soldiers, cannot be understated. The importance of what is coming, and is coming very soon, cannot be overstated. You, along with your confidants, comrades, brothers and sisters, family, and loved ones, you will be the levee that prevents a civil war in the United States of America. President Donald Trump knew going into this operation that we would arrive at the point where his legacy would be tested. He also knew that we would arrive at the point, although perhaps not in this fashion, where he would be the target, the physical target of an unlawful government. He was promised and given military protection. President Trump will remain safe. Nothing will happen to President Trump during this phase. President Trump will remain the commander-in-chief as we transition through the next public reveals. President Trump will not be J. Epsteined in jail. It is very unlikely that you will witness President Trump behind any sort of bars You will witness a public arrest of the former president, current president, in some form. And when that happens, patriots across America who are not aware, like you are, of what is currently going on in the world will have themselves an absolute fit. You are ready to help allay their concerns. The hardened digital soldier will stand at the battlefield between anarchy and oblivion and the preservation of our republic. You will span the gap. This operation cannot happen without you. If you choose to give up on the operation or resign yourself to hopelessness, I feel sorry for you, but I would implore you to just please step out of the way. To the trolls out there, we're doing this for you as well. You're welcome to continue your hate parades. Understand that to the hardened digital soldier, you will have more luck convincing grass not to grow. Nothing can or will stop what is coming. What is coming will change the world and rock our nation. But it is truth that we all need. It is transparency and common sense that must take place. It is disclosure that is necessary for healing. We cannot open the floodgates all at once. Just as you, if you cared for someone, would not ask them to drink vitamin water from a fire hose. Would it make them better? Yes. But your method of delivery would actually kill them. Your job is to give them a steady drip, which turns to a stream, and then a creek, and then a river, and then maybe some raging rapids. And then and only when they are prepared to handle the flood of information will they be able to handle the flood of information. Q wants you to know that you are ready for that information, or you are ready for that point in the information war. That's a better way to say it, at least in the opinion of this podcaster. If we examine the drops surrounding the first arrest, you'll notice that it's the only drop out of over 4,800 that Q posted twice at the exact same timestamp. The timestamp was 5:03 and 45. It was posted twice for emphasis. It does reference President 45. The 5:03 is something that many individuals fail to research. Remember that a great deal of comms that transpire in the Q movement happen off of timestamp and backhanded references. For those of you out there who follow Dan Scavino is a member of the Q team in as much as he handles communications silently but openly to let those of us in the movement know things that may be coming. 2 days before the Mar-a-Lago raid, Mr. Scavino posted a doorway with 45's office on it. The hint obviously was that the illegitimate government would be at 45's doorstep. And very quickly after that, they were. Recently, Scavino posted a comm related to D-class. That particular declassification comm was very interesting. 5:03 on Q's timestamp yields us some very interesting results if we look into where and how that number shows up in other areas. The timestamp, as we discussed, was posted twice the exact same time, reiterating the 45 portion. 5:03 could be taken to mean many things. One of the things this podcaster feels that it means refers to the 503rd Military Police Detachment. The 503rd Military Police Detachment is a special operations military police detachment stationed at Fort Bragg, which is the home of the Army Special Forces Operations Command. As we know that devolution is a special forces operation and a black ops / red agency, whiskey white clearance type event, I think we should understand that Q is also referencing the military in this post. The 503rd is known for battlefield military police. They have an airborne paratrooper detachment, which carries out special operations, and they are stationed at one of the Army's largest bases, a base that we know has been coordinating internal devolution operations with Marine General David Berger and others, going on now for almost 2 years. Very interestingly enough, I would implore each of you to look up the history of Chris Miller and where he came from. Chris Miller was the former Secretary of Defense under Donald Trump and was the acting Secretary of Defense for the last days of the lawful U.S. Inc. government, a government that has been in transition now for nearly 2 years, back to the Republic of the United States. Mr. Miller is also the current lawful government in exile's Secretary of War, Minister of War, if you will, and has been coordinating operations privately throughout the world. I believe in this drop, discussing the first arrest, Q tells us that 45 will be arrested and the military is not far behind. Once an illegitimate government that does not have the loyalty and faith of the United States military takes unequivocal action against the lawful commander-in-chief, the military's duty to the Constitution and to the Republic of the United States becomes very crystal clear, polarized, if you will. It is the opinion of this podcaster that a lion's majority of the military will support retaking the government of the United States for the people of the United States. But remember that we also have traitors that we must account for. Some of those traitors know that they're traitors, others not. Others are simply confused, following orders as they are required to do in the military chain of command. Orders have already begun to flow from the top down in preparation for National Guard deployment. I believe that we can track much of this through open source outlets such as military flight trackers, people like former air traffic controllers on YouTube, former military MPs, technicians, and service members who have pieced together various relevant parts of military law. But not all of this is going to be able to be publicly sourced, at least yet. The sensitivity of this operation also cannot be overstated. There is no second chance. There is not an opportunity to get it wrong, examine where we messed up, and then get it right again. Failure is not an option. We must get the entire swamp. That is the larger purpose for this sting operation. Remember that county level elections around your United States of America and around the world in different localities and municipalities, boroughs, if you will, they've all been fraudulent for a very long time. The people that you go to church with who are city commissioners, county commissioners, zoning boards, county clerks, district attorneys. A great deal of them, though not all, but a great deal of them are not working for you, even as they say their oaths and read from their hymnals 3 shoulders down from you. That does not mean that you should look upon them with animosity or hatred. It simply means that you should do your research to be aware, appropriately aware, of what's going on in your area. This operation is to help you do that. This operation is to catalyze the traitors from the not traitors. This operation is to highlight those who are beholden to cabal interests, and then to further highlight the ones who, when faced with the imminent punishment, will walk back their loyalties and place those loyalties where they should be, which is with the people and the government of the United States of America. Many traitors will not. I would say that we have given them every opportunity. The United States of America cannot take much more of where we are at economically, culturally, consciousness-wise, with the tension and the vitriol. Our society is more at a boiling point now from east to west than it has been in a very long time. But with that boiling point comes very clear demarcation lines where you can make assessments on who is with you and who is not. There's a very easy litmus test for anyone on the ballot in your locality, right down to your school board. What will you do to rectify what happened in the 2020 election? If they tell you anything but I will work as hard as I can to ensure that that election is restored correctly back to the people and fraud is ended in our electoral process, then you can be assured that they have other masters that they are also serving. It is natural for people to want to keep the peace. It is also natural for your representatives as human beings from the county, state, school board levels, all the way up to the federal level to want to preserve the peaceful, non-confrontational environment as long as possible. However, on this particular issue, there cannot be an on-the-fence answer. You must choose a side, and that is what we've been playing out for a good long time now. There's many other reasons, a whole host, a myriad of reasons of why this had to happen this way. This is just one of many. I know things are tough for each of you. I've lost at least one family member and have lost 2 friends to the poison kill shots, which will soon be making their way into the news. The mainstream news will begin to uncover the truth about COVID and the election. That snowball will gain momentum as we head towards the rectification of this entire phase. Keep the faith. It is exhausting. Justice is coming because nothing can stop it. Understand that while things may get a bit scary as we move into the fall, our great military is in full control, and they will not allow a societal and civilizational level calamity to befall us. Sadly, though, as with all wars, you must account for a loss of man and women. You must account for civilian casualties, even unintentional ones. But we will win. We will win publicly. We will win privately. We will win openly. And when we do see the return of 45 to the rightful place in the United States government, we will watch a transformation of power structure in the Republic of the United States of America, the likes of which has not been seen for more than 150 years. We are returning to greatness. Hang in there. Keep the faith. Remember your role as we move into a phase that will whip up even the Patriots and get them into panic mode. And you will start to see the deep state infiltrates in the truth community begin to spout rhetoric that is antithetical to the movement and won't make much sense. That's part of it. Your job is to preserve the truth, the entirety of the truth. Your job is to help keep the peace, and your job is to love your fellow man. Remember, during this journey, it is also important, and we will close with this. Take a few minutes each day just for you. Be alone with your source God. Be alone with the Creator inside. Be alone with your soul, the bigger part of you that understands the truth. Don't think too much about it. Just be alone with it. Give yourself a moment of breath. Things will get a little tougher before they get better, but they will not be so tough that you cannot handle it. You have made it this far. I commend all of you. The strength and determination of character necessary to succeed in this operation militarily around the world is unparalleled, and for the first time in history, the military is actually relying on you. It is not the other way around. I do hope that many of you do not take that attitude of being saved. You, by your awareness and your willingness to share the truth in the face of so much lies, so many lies, you are going to save yourself. And you're going to be an integral linchpin that will help everyone save humanity and one another. This has been a wonderful audio cast. I feel close to all of you, and I appreciate you. I do hope you will pay attention as we move forward, that you will keep the peace, and that you will keep your head on a swivel. Calm, deliberate, thoughtful, inspired, peaceful. That is how we should be as we move through this next phase. Many of our brothers and sisters will not be able to do it. They will look to you, and you will be there for them. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you for joining.